The J6K1 was first introduced as a top reward vehicle for the Operation Frost event in War Thunder. With its high speed, Japanese manoeuvrability, and 6 20mm cannons, is this plane a worthwhile purchase, or is it just another mediocre reward vehicle? Alright lads, today I'm going to be talking about the performance, weapons and playstyle of the J6K1 Jinpu. Starting as always with the basics, this plane is a rank 4 battle rating 6.0 fighter located in the Japanese tech tree. Being a rank 4 premium, it will be efficient at researching all Japanese aircraft between the ranks of 1 and 5, meaning you will be able to research all of the early Japanese jets with this plane. To get this aircraft, you will have to buy it on the Gaijin marketplace, where its price increases slightly every day. At the time of recording, the price is around 25 Gaijin coins. It's also worth noting that as it is a marketplace premium, you will not get the usual 15 days of premium time and 2,000 golden eagles as found in packs from the Gaijin store. Going on to the rewards, the Jinpu has a base RP modifier of 1.78, which is very good for battle rating 6.0. You can expect an RP modifier of 356% with a free-to-play account and 534% with a premium account. The J6K1 Silver Line modifier is also very impressive. With a base modifier of 2.7, you will have the highest Silver Line modifier in the game. With a free-to-play account, you can expect a Silver Line modifier of 540%, and with a premium account, that rises to 810%, which makes this plane one of the best in the game for grinding out Silver Lions. Being a premium, this plane only has a crew train cost of 10,000 Silver Lions, as well as a low repair cost of 6,900 Silver Lions. It also has a fairly cheap expert qualification cost of 420,000 Silver Lions, and for the ace qualification, an additional 1,200 Golden Eagles. If you'd like to know more about the Jinpu, and whether I think you should buy this plane, then stick around for the rest of the video. The J6K1 is powered by an 18-cylinder Nakajima engine, producing 2,170 horsepower. As this plane was developed to counter the legendary B-29 heavy bomber, it was tuned for high altitude performance. This tuning resulted in a top speed of 685 km/h at an altitude of 10,000 meters, and even below this altitude, you are still one of the fastest Japanese props in the game. Even when at high altitudes, you typically aren't fast enough to outrun most American planes, but planes like the late model Smirling Spitfire stand no chance of catching you due to their low altitude tuning. This aircraft has a rather average climb rate of 16 meters per second, which does mean you'll have to side climb slightly in order to get air superiority. You can manage an 18-degree climb rate whilst maintaining 270 km/h, while your most common enemy, the P-51H, can sustain a far higher climb rate than that. Against planes that you can't outrun, you can always outturn them with the J6K1's amazing 18-second turn time, which is made even better by the plane's great flaps, which further decrease your turn time. The plane is also relatively light, giving the J6K1 a fairly decent power to weight ratio. This gives you the same great low speed performance that you are used to with typical Japanese fighters, but with the addition of the powerful engine giving you incredibly high low speed thrust. Stall fighting against big American fighters is definitely a valid tactic in this plane. The J6K1 is also pretty good at diving. It has very fast acceleration in the dive, and has a respectable wing rip speed of 780 km/h. While you won't be able to outdive American fighters, diving from an opponent is a pretty good tactic against most enemies, especially considering this plane is a good turner. You can dive out of an engagement, get some speed, and then enter a turn fight. When you exit a dive, the J6K1 has fairly good energy retention in the horizontal. While not as good as heavy American fighters such as the P-47M or P-51H, the performance of the Jinpu is better than the average Japanese fighter. Overall, the performance of the J6K1 is exceptional. It combines a powerful engine, high speed and great manoeuvrability. When this plane was first introduced, it was pretty awful. It locked up in dives, but a few months ago, Gaijin changed the flight model, and now the J6K1 has a brilliant combination of all the things that make a great dogfighter. After covering the plane's great performance, we now go on to the J6K1's fierce weaponry. The Jinpu has two primary weapon types. The first are two 13.2mm Type 3 machine guns. These have a similar performance to the American M2 Browning machine guns, only with a slightly higher fire rate of 800 rounds per minute. The second set of guns are the six 20mm Type 99 cannons with 1,200 rounds in total for 200 rounds per gun. They have a rather low fire rate of 490 rounds per minute, as well as a rather low muzzle velocity, making hitting targets at longer range rather difficult. These slight downsides are by no means deal breakers. These guns have very good performance when you manage to hit your target. 6 cannons and 2 high caliber machine guns converging on a single target does a lot of damage. The J6K1 is also able to carry two types of bombs. The first are the rather lackluster 60kg Type 97 bombs. You can carry 4 of these in total. They only have a destructive radius of 2 meters, making them borderline useless in ground realistic battles. Alternatively, you can carry 2 Type 98 250kg bombs. These bombs have a higher destruction radius of 5 meters, which makes them somewhat usable in ground realistic, but I still would not recommend using this plane as a fighter bomber. Overall, the J6K1 has very powerful guns with plenty of ammunition to go with them. While the guns have both a rather low fire rate and velocity, they are still more than enough to destroy all of the opponents you will ever meet, even in an up tier to bot rating 7.0. When I spawn into a game, I will set my gun convergence to 400 meters and turn vertical targeting on. I will take the universal belts for the 13.2mm machine guns and the tracer belts for the 20mm cannons. I would not recommend taking a bomb load on either Air RB or Ground RB. There are 2 types of games you will encounter in Air RB in this plane: prop matches and jet matches. Prop matches are typically fought against the Americans on Pacific maps, where your enemies are usually the P-51H, Tiger Cats, Bearcats, and various ground attack planes. In this type of match, climbing is very important. Due to the Jinpu's rather average climb rate, you'll find yourself being outclimbed if you head straight towards the enemy after spawning. In these type of matches, I highly recommend side climbing in the direction that most of your friendlies also climb. When at altitude, you want to identify the strengths and weaknesses of every opponent you come across. For example, the late Merlin Spitfires will outturn you, but as long as you stay above 4,000 meters in altitude, you are faster than them and have a greater engine power, allowing you to boom and zoom them with your decent dive speed and engine retention. Against the P-51Hs or Bearcats, you can outturn them as long as you go into a merge with some speed. As a dogfight goes on, the American fighters will bleed their energy, and as a result, their ability to turn with you will be significantly reduced. In a jet dominant game, climbing isn't as big of an issue. This is because early jets don't really have the engine power to climb. They prefer to stay somewhat low and gain speed. Due to this, I would still recommend climbing up to around 4 kilometers. Here you can dive on jets below you and catch them with your decent dive speed. And again, if there was an enemy prop that has outclimbed you, you can typically either dive away or turn fight them. The J6K1 has a very forgiving flight model that allows you to fly it with quite a lot of flexibility. To conclude, I would absolutely recommend you purchasing this plane, especially seeing as the price of this thing is going up and up each day. It has a great combination of attributes that make this plane a joy to fly. It does require knowledge of your opponents, their strengths and their weaknesses, but if you are a fairly experienced pilot, then this is an amazing addition to the Japanese tech tree. It does have some downsides, such as the low muzzle velocity of the guns, but seeing as this plane is primarily a turn fighter, a fighting style typically found in medium to low speed engagements, it isn't as much as a drawback as you'd think. The Jinpu's fairly ineffective bomb loadouts does make this plane unsuitable for ground realistic battles, but that has personally never bothered me. The amazing turn rate, powerful engine and high top speed gives it great performance in air realistic battles, allowing you to be incredibly competitive right up to bot rating 7.0. The great performance in Air RB, combined with some of the highest reward modifiers in the game, allows an experienced pilot to make tons of RP and silver lions in this late war Japanese monster. As always lads, I hope you found this video useful, and thank you very much for watching.